Welcome back to the Stephen A.Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves...
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Before I get on out of here, I have to address a story that isn't just sports news. It's a cautionary tale. It's a flashing red siren in the night. It is, without hyperbole, an existential crisis. The WNBA, riding a wave of momentum not seen in its 28-year history, has just seemingly decided to play Russian roulette with its own future. And according to multiple sources and my own reporting, they've loaded the chamber, pointed the barrel at their own head, and their finger is tightening on the trigger. The league has dropped a nuclear bomb on its own future, and the fallout, a radioactive cloud of ego, jealousy, and catastrophic mismanagement, threatens to render the entire landscape barren. This isn't about a hard foul. This isn't about a heated press conference. This is about a move so profoundly self-destructive, so driven by internal politics and a desperate hunger for control, that it forces those of us who care about the sport to step in and expose the ugly, undeniable truth. What I am about to detail, confirmed through my channels and painted against a backdrop of months of observable friction, is this. Caitlin Clark, the singular, generation-defining savior of women's basketball, is facing a suspension order from the desk of Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. And the reason will make your jaw hit the floor. It's not for a failed drug test, it's not for conduct detrimental to the league, it's not for missing a team flight. It is, allegedly, for the act of looking her employers in the eye and uttering one simple, powerful word: no. No to a collective bargaining agreement addendum. No to a specific contractual clause designed not to protect her, but to clip her wings. No to surrendering her autonomy at the very moment she has given the league more value than any player ever has. This is the moment the WNBA's establishment decided to go to war with its own golden goose. And if these rumors hold, they are about to learn a devastating, expensive lesson about leverage, power, and where the true heart of this sport now resides. You must understand the magnitude of what we're discussing. For months I have stood virtually alone in the mainstream media, willing to call out the toxic undercurrent swirling around this young woman. I've named it: the jealousy, the pettiness, the bizarre gatekeeping from a faction of the league's old guard. I went on national television and issued a warning to the veterans in the front office. You are mishandling an asset that comes along once in a generation. You are fumbling the bag. I pleaded for them to see what was in front of them, not a threat but a lifeline. But now the tone has shifted from warning to grim confirmation. My latest insights, gleaned from sources close to the situation, suggest the behind-the-scenes friction has metastasized. It has evolved past passive-aggressive podcast comments and questionable physical fouls on the court. It has entered the sterile, high-stakes arena of the legal boardroom. The allegation is that the league, in the midst of its own financial renegotiations, attempted to strong-arm Clark into signing a side deal, an addendum to the CBA or a special rider that would limit her autonomy. This likely pertained to her massive, unprecedented outside endorsement portfolio, worth tens of millions, or her ability to participate in rival off-season ventures, most notably the new, player-driven Unrivaled league. And when she, advised by a savvy team of managers and lawyers, refused, the commissioner's office, in a move that reeks of panic and overreach, reportedly reached for the suspension button. This is a power play of epic proportions. It is the act of a bureaucracy terrified of a power it cannot contain. To grasp the sheer insanity of this, you must first peel back the layers of the WNBA's current financial landscape. The players' union, the WNBPA, recently opted out of the current CBA. Their message is clear: they want more money, better travel conditions, namely full charter flights, a bigger slice of the revenue pie. It's a rightful fight born of years of undervaluation. But here is the question that hangs in the air, thick and unavoidable. Who is responsible for that revenue pie suddenly swelling to a size that makes these demands plausible? The answer is Caitlin Clark. It is undeniable, it is quantifiable. Before her arrival, the WNBA was struggling to secure significant standalone broadcast rights fees. Its games were often buried on secondary platforms, its value bundled with other properties. After her magnetic, record-shattering college career captivated the nation, and as she entered the draft, the league's fortunes changed overnight. They secured a historic $2.2 billion media rights deal over 11 years with Disney, Amazon, and NBC. While negotiations were undoubtedly underway, Clark's presence was the rocket fuel. She was the leverage. Advertisers weren't buying the WNBA of 2022, they were buying the potential of the Caitlin Clark-era WNBA. You would think the league office would be rolling out the red carpet for the athlete responsible for this generational windfall. You would think they'd be building statues. Instead, the reports suggest they're trying to build a cage. The rumored terms presented to Clark and other high-profile players would force them to prioritize the WNBA calendar over all other lucrative ventures, effectively trying to own their entire year. For a player like Clark, this is an economic non-starter. She has the business acumen of a seasoned CEO. Why on earth would she sign a deal that locks her into a league max salary of roughly $76,000 for her rookie season when she can make $3 million from a single Nike deal? When she can command millions more for appearances, partnerships, and off-season play? Her refusal wasn't just a no. It was a declaration of financial independence. And that concept, a player being more powerful as an individual brand than as a league employee, terrifies an institution built on collective control. This suspension narrative isn't an isolated incident. It is the logical, dramatic climax of a season-long campaign of resentment, one that the league office has not only allowed to fester but has often implicitly endorsed. Let's rewind. From the moment Clark declared for the draft, the knives were subtly unsheathed. We all remember Diana Taurasi's now infamous "reality is coming" comment. At the time, some dismissed it as veteran competitive fire, but in the context of everything that followed, it looks less like a warning and more like a threat from the established guard. Then came the Cheryl Swoops saga, where a legend of the game seemed to bend over backwards to discredit Clark's accomplishments, even getting basic facts wrong in her zeal to diminish the rookie's impact. It was strange. It was personal. This environment of hostility was cultivated in plain sight. And it was allowed to fester by the very person now allegedly authorizing the suspension, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. Engelbert's leadership has been under a microscope all year. She was criticized for smiling through awkward interviews while fans were launching vicious, often racially tinged attacks on players online. She was blasted for her league's seeming indifference as Clark was subjected to a series of hard, often dangerous fouls, like the infamous hip check from Chennedy Carter that was upgraded to a flagrant one only after a massive public outcry. The league's disciplinary response was consistently slow and weak, sending a message that this treatment was, if not acceptable, then not a priority to stop. If Engelbert has now authorized a suspension based on a contract dispute, it confirms the darkest theory of them all. The commissioner is not leading the league. She's being led or bullied by a vocal contingent of veteran players and old guard influencers who want Caitlin Clark to wait her turn, to be humbled, to be brought into the fold on their terms. It is the ultimate failure of leadership, prioritizing the comfort of the entrenched over the explosive growth represented by the new. This is where the story twists into the realm of high-stakes business drama. Looming on the horizon is the Unrivaled League, founded by stars Breena Stewart and Nafisa Collier. This 3-on-3 league set for the WNBA offseason isn't just another overseas option. It's a paradigm shift. It's offering six-figure minimum salaries, equity stakes in the league itself, and a star-centric model the WNBA has never embraced. The whispers have been growing louder. The WNBA front office is terrified that Clark might skip the beginning of the WNBA season, or in a true doomsday scenario, sit out entirely, to play in a league that not only pays her what she's worth but treats her as a foundational partner. By trying to force a CBA clause that restricts this, or by suspending her for refusing to comply, the WNBA isn't being proactive. It's trying to slam shut a door that Caitlin Clark has already blown off its hinges. This is the core of her unprecedented leverage. The WNBA knows it doesn't own its players the way the NBA does. The economic gravity isn't strong enough. When you try to exert authority over someone who has more liquid capital and earning potential than some of the franchise owners, you lose. You have no leverage. The suspension is a bluff, but Clark is holding a royal flush. She can walk away and be financially and professionally fulfilled. The WNBA cannot survive her walking away. It's that simple. Let's dwell on the emotional engine driving this administrative train wreck: jealousy. Stephen A. Smith has harped on it because it is the irrational fuel to this fire. It is not normal for a sports league to treat its most popular, revenue-generating player as a problem to be managed. Compare this to history. When Michael Jordan arrived, the NBA didn't tell him to stop his endorsements or change his game. They built the league around his brilliance. When LeBron James was drafted, the league understood he was a transformative event. They marketed him, protected him within reason, and rode the tide. The philosophy was simple: a rising tide lifts all boats. The WNBA has operated on the opposite principle: cut down the tallest poppy. They have allowed and at times encouraged a narrative that Clark is privileged, that she hasn't earned it, that her style of play or her fanbase is somehow inauthentic. This toxic culture has seeped from social media into locker rooms and most damningly into the front office. If the suspension rumor is true, it is the ultimate manifestation of this syndrome. The veterans who hold sway within the union likely pressured the league to get Clark in line, to make her submit to the collective. But here's the painful truth the establishment refuses to swallow. Caitlin Clark isn't just part of the collective economy, she is the economy. The new fans, the TV ratings, the merchandise sales, they are her economy. Trying to make her a mere participant in it is like asking the inventor of the smartphone to take a number and wait in line. The timing of this potential suspension is catastrophic. The WNBA is riding a wave of momentum, but it is a fragile, Clark-dependent wave. TV ratings were up 170% this season. Attendance records were shattered wherever Clark played. Merchandise sales for Clark and the Fever were up over 500%. Every single one of those metrics points back to number 22. If Commissioner Engelbert follows through with a suspension, or if this suspension is a de facto lockout until Clark signs their deal, they are not just pausing progress. They are taking a flamethrower to stacks of cash. Think about the partners. Disney, Amazon, and NBC just committed $2.2 billion. They did not invest in the Chicago Sky versus Connecticut Sun, low-scoring defensive grindfists of years past, with all due respect to those teams. They invested in the logos, the 40-foot daggers, the viral passes, the sheer electricity that only Caitlin Clark provides consistently. A suspension is a breach of trust with these financiers. It is selling them one product and delivering another. The calls from those corporate boardrooms to the WNBA headquarters would be apocalyptic. And the fans, the backlash on social media is a preview of the coming storm. Boycott WNBA is trending. Fans are threatening to cancel League Pass subscriptions. The Indiana Fever, dubbed America's team, would be playing to echoes in empty arenas without Clark. The league profoundly underestimates the loyalty of this new fanbase. These aren't legacy WNBA fans with 20 years of habit. These are Clark fans, Iowa fans, college basketball fans. Their loyalty is to her, not to the WNBA shield. Remove the star and they will simply change the channel. The arrogance required to believe the WNBA brand is now stronger than its main character is staggering. It is a profound disconnect from the very reality many of us have been screaming about for months. We cannot discuss this without revisiting the Olympic snub, for it sets a clear precedent for the suspension. When Clark was left off the Team USA roster for Paris, the selection committee hid behind hollow excuses about experience and chemistry. It was transparent nonsense. It was a gatekeeping move designed to uphold an old hierarchy and deny the new star the global platform. That decision likely cost the WNBA and its partners millions in lost exposure during the games. This suspension is the same song, a different and far more damaging verse. It is once again the establishment protecting the establishment at the direct cost of progress and profit. The difference? Missing the Olympics was a symbolic slight and a missed opportunity. Missing WNBA games due to a contract dispute is an active, self-inflicted disaster. It validates every cynical critic who said the WNBA wasn't ready for primetime, that it was too petty, too amateur in its mindset to handle a superstar of this magnitude. This situation also forces us to navigate the complex, often unspoken racial component. I have spoken about the double standards. When Angel Reese engages in fiery trash talk or on-court drama, it is often framed as passion, showmanship, or the new era of marketing. When Clark does anything, reacts to a foul, hits a shot, even exists in a space she is scrutinized, critiqued, or physically targeted, the proposed suspension for a CBA dispute feels like selective enforcement. Would the league suspend A'ja Wilson, the face of the league and a reigning champion, for a similar stand? Would they suspend Breena Stewart, a union founder? Or is this punishment specifically tailored for the rookie who dared to become bigger than the league itself? The optics are horrific. It creates a perception, whether intended or not, that the league is trying to humble the white superstar to appease critics who claim she gets special treatment, all while actually meting out the worst, most punitive treatment ever given to a #1 pick. It's a no-win scenario that injects racial tension into a purely economic and power-based dispute, further poisoning the well. Let's consider the legal ramifications, because this is where the WNBA's position could completely unravel. If the league suspends Clark for refusing a deal that limits her outside income, they are potentially walking into an antitrust lawsuit. The players are employees, but in the modern era they are also independent contractors for their name, image, and likeness nil. The league cannot, without serious legal risk, claim overarching ownership of a player's ability to market herself 365 days a year. Caitlin Clark has the resources to hire the best legal team in the country. A protracted court battle would be a nightmare for the WNBA. The discovery process alone would be devastating, forcing the release of internal emails, texts between executives, and meeting minutes that could reveal coordinated efforts to suppress her value or control her career. This suspension threat isn't just a business mistake. It could be the spark that burns the entire house down, exposing the kind of collusion that fans have long suspected. The sheer irony is suffocating. For years, the WNBA's mantra has been grow the game. They begged for coverage, for investment, for viewers. They positioned themselves as a cause as much as a league. Then, a player arrives who does exactly that. She grows the game beyond their wildest dreams, bringing in new audiences, new money, new energy. And the response: suspend her. It is hypocrisy of the highest order. It proves that grow the game really meant grow the game on our terms with our preferred stars without disrupting our internal culture. They didn't want a revolution, they wanted validation. Caitlin Clark is a revolution. She plays a different style, attracts a different demographic, and commands a different kind of cultural power. The establishment would rather rule over a kingdom of ashes than serve in a kingdom of gold if it means admitting their previous model was limited and that a new paradigm is here. This crisis highlights a fundamental truth. The WNBA's operational and marketing infrastructure is not equipped for this moment. They have fumbled the bag all season. Failed to capitalize on rivalries in a healthy promotional way, letting them turn toxic. Failed to stock Clark jerseys, leaving millions on the table. Failed to secure larger venues fast enough for her drawing power. Failed to protect their asset on the court. This suspension threat is the grand finale of incompetence. It suggests a league run by amateurs playing dress-up as professional sports executives. You cannot run a billion-dollar enterprise with a community recreation league mindset. This is a small-minded move from people terrified of the change and the scale that Clark represents. The league doesn't need a new CBA clause, it needs a complete overhaul in leadership. People who understand that in 21st century sports, superstars aren't just employees, they are partners. So where does this leave us? At the most dangerous crossroads in the history of women's professional sports. On one path, the WNBA backs down. They find a face-saving solution, negotiate in good faith with Clark as the partner she is, and embrace the transformative moment. They use her leverage to secure a better CBA for all players, finally achieving the gains the veterans have fought for, funded by the new economy Clark created. On the other path, they suspend her. They ignite a firestorm of fan revolt, partner betrayal, legal jeopardy, and brand destruction. They hand the keys of the sport's future to the Unrivaled league. They teach every young girl watching that excellence is met with punishment, not celebration. The silence from the league office is deafening. In normal crises, PR teams scramble to kill false rumors. Their silence here is the loudest confirmation. They are in a panic room, realizing the trap they've set for themselves. Caitlin Clark didn't get here by blinking. She stares down pressure. She has more leverage, more options, and more public support than the league office could ever muster. The WNBA is holding a lit match over its own gas tank, convinced it controls the flame. They are about to learn a brutal lesson in real time. You cannot suspend a phenomenon. You can only become irrelevant trying. This is Stephen A. Smith telling it like it is. May someone in that boardroom have the sense to listen before it's too late.